And he's like, Abhi, we don't need a pie chart because all my customers come from one source. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. You're running a
No.
$50 million company. How can you only have one source for customer acquisition? What am I missing? What is that source? And he's like, word of mouth.
Wow.
That's it. Everyone is coming through word of mouth. And it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, that's the reason why I don't have to spend a single dollar in ads. And I was like, how are you doing it? What's the secret? I want to know.
You are listening to 5 a.m. podcast. Your morning motivation starts here.
Good morning and welcome back to the 5 a.m. podcast. I'm your host, Michael Clausen. Now, most entrepreneurs, they might find themselves living in a state of maybe a little bit of fragile growth where one bad month or that missed sales call may cause them to stall. But our guest today has spent the last 8 years building a system where growth isn't just a hope, it's a predictable outcome. Abhi Asija is an entrepreneur. He's the author of The Land Business and the mind behind more than 700 land deals. He's built a seven-figure empire not by chasing complex hacks, but by mastering the fundamentals of goodwill, speed, and offer stacking. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the mental models that allowed him to scale a business while maintaining a lean and efficient team. Abhi, it's great to have you on the show. Welcome to the 5am podcast.
Michael, what a great introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's right up our alley, and it'll be an encouragement and give some people some hope for getting out of some ruts they might be in. I've got to say that you started your journey as an international student. You had the 9 to 5. Now, you were a big Dave Ramsey fan.
Yes.
How did being that anti-debt idea lead you specifically to the land business instead of maybe traditional house flipping?
Yeah, Michael, you did your homework. Love it.
Yes,
Perfect. I
I
love
love
it.
the homework.
So, so yeah, international student, I followed the traditional path, 9 to 5, pretty much every international student
Yep.
goes through it. Didn't want to take debt. So we were like running out of options of what we can do in real estate, right? Because pretty
Okay.
much any real estate transaction requires some kind of debt. We're talking about houses, apartments, commercial, right?
Yes.
So land was the one thing that did not require debt because you could literally buy parcels of land,
Hmm.
Western United States, middle of nowhere, right? So
Yep.
like 5 acre properties for like 4,000, 5,000, $6,000. So that was extremely attractive to me because that means I could just use my savings, right? So I worked
Yeah.
10 plus years and I had, a good amount of savings and, I was like, all right, let's put it to use. So sent out bunch of letters, to owners. Like I think it was around 600-ish people, and most people did not respond. Some people who responded said, "Please don't contact me again."
Yeah.
Um, but there are like two people who said, "Yes, please take this land. I have no need for it." We bought those two properties in New Mexico. We listed it on eBay. We didn't have a website. We were just testing this concept and the property sold within like couple of months, and we like
Wow.
2.5x our money. So we're
Wow.
like, the model works. So now we just need to do like enough of these deals so we can replace our salaries. So that's how it
Wow.
all got started. 8 years later, we have completed 700 plus deals. It's a 7 figure business and no more 9 to 5s.
Wow. That is great. Now, someone might be listening and they say, okay, Abhi, I get the anti-debt thing, but I am really having trouble saving. And it sounded like that was a big step for you, is you were already a saver. And
Yes.
I know this isn't off topic because it's part and parcel of your story, but can you talk to somebody who thinks saving is maybe too hard and they love spending their money and they don't know the benefits of saving? Can you briefly get into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a biased. I'll give you a biased answer because
Okay, yes.
I came from India and we don't have, social security and all the good
Right.
stuff that we get in the United States. So I came from that savings mindset. Everyone pretty much, at least back in the day when I came to the US in 2007, I
Hmm.
don't know if people are saving in India these days, but back in the day, everyone used to save. So it was like part of the culture, because you
Yeah.
don't have like robust health insurance and social security and Medicare systems that we all enjoy in the United States. So it was kind of built in part of my operating system. Always saved as much as possible, don't spend too much, live within our
Yes.
means kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, so that was the mindset. I wish I had some special secret sauce that I could share with the listeners, but that's how it's just immigrant thinking, right?
Yes, that's right. Delayed gratification and knowing where you come from. It's so important that we know where we come from and
Yeah.
the struggles that previous generations went for us to be here where we are now. That's
Yeah.
critical. And of course, the family unit. You had mentioned that it took about 100 deals before your wife and eventually you could leave your 9 to 5. I want to ask you, how integral was it to get the cooperation, or maybe your wife she had the vision too and was working with you diligently on this?
So my wife is, more on the pessimist side, like
Okay.
glass half empty kind of person, and I was like glass half full kind of person.
Yes.
So
Okay.
but she believed in the model once I proved it. So she's like, "All right, you want to do this thing, you can do it. You do it by yourself, but when you prove it to me that this model works, then I will help you because I don't want to like spend time and
Uh-huh.
I have my own careers to focus
Yes.
on." So
Right.
I had to like make a logical argument and prove to her that this works and it's worth spending time and effort in. Once I was able to do that, she saw the light and then said, "All right, now we're doing this." And then I was like, "All right, now we're going to take off." Because, she's naturally has a lot of patience, which is
Okay.
required when you
Yes.
talk to customers on the sales side, which I don't have a ton
Yes.
of patience. So when I was talking to customers, I would be like, I'll get frustrated. I like either buy or please don't waste my time on the phone kind of attitude. Whereas my
Yes.
wife, she will listen to them and she will listen to their problems. So our sales improved when my wife started helping out in the business.
Right. And what made you want to write the book?
Oh, so that's an interesting story. So my wife wrote a book first. So that
Okay.
was few years back. So when we first started, this is pre-chat GPT. We're talking about
Okay.
2018.
Yeah.
There
Okay.
is no information available online on how
Mm.
to do due diligence on a piece of vacant land, right? When you're trying to buy a house, you
Mm-hmm.
hire a property inspector. That
Yeah.
person goes to the house, finds every possible thing wrong with that house, creates a nice PDF report, and sends it to you via email. You
Yeah.
read it, and you're like, all right, this we can negotiate. This doesn't matter. This might be a big deal. Let's talk to the seller, right? So you have that
Yeah.
report readily available, and you have helpful agents helping you make sense of that report. There is no such thing in land. There is no property inspection report. You
Yeah.
are responsible for pretty much everything. And on top of that, real estate agents, they're not trained. The training that they get is usually on the house side because
Yes.
land is so complicated because literally you could have like million things you could do with the land. Like you could use it for commercial purposes, you could use it for recreation, you could
Mm-hmm.
use it to build a tiny house. You could use it to build a regular stick built house. You could use it to build like a, architectural thing that has never been done before, right?
Yeah.
So literally unlimited use cases with land, and every use case has its own sort of due diligence that you need to perform. We were completely blindsided. I mean, just a quick story. We sold a 40-acre parcel or 20-acre parcel of land to a gentleman in New Mexico. He was like very happy, got a big discount. And then I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, he calls back and he says, "You guys scammed me." And I was like,
Oh.
"What are you talking about? We transferred you to deed. You can call the county and confirm." He say, "Yeah, no, but you didn't disclose that there were arroyos on the property." And I was like,
Hmm.
"What?" Or like wetlands on the property. And I was like,
Mhm.
what are wetlands? It's New Mexico. It's all desert. It's all dry. Where
Yeah.
it's not wet, right? And he was like, "No, these are called arroyos. When the water it rains, it like gushes through and it's
Yep.
dangerous and all that stuff. And you guys didn't disclose it." And we're like, we live in New York City. We don't know anything about arroyos, right? We don't have arroyos in New York. So stuff like that. We didn't know anything about it, right? And
Hmm.
then we learn from experience. So my wife was thinking, it'll be really useful if all the experiences we have had by selling like 100, 200 properties, we should document it in a book because
Mhm.
it's going to be extremely useful for people who are looking to start this business or just in the market to buy land. So she wrote a due diligence book, started with like 20 pointers, 20 things you need to check before you buy land, turn it into a 200 plus checklist over the years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it was very well received by the people, by the community, people in the land space. And she has like 500 plus reviews on Amazon.
Wow.
So I was kind of envious that I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I need to write a book as well. And I need to make it as good, if not better. So, and I didn't want to write a how to book. So when we hit 700 sales or 700 vacant land properties sold, I was like, all right, I'm going to write a book, but it needs to be evergreen, like my wife's book. Like
Mhm.
hers is on due diligence, and I wrote it on principles. What are the principles required to go from $0 to seven figures
Wow.
buying and selling vacant land, if that's the business you want to run? So these are business principles. I mean, technically they can be applied to any business, but it's written through the lens of my experience and my wife's experience buying and selling vacant land and running, scaling that. So
Right.
that's the book. It's 40 plus principles that every business operator on the land side should know, and it's going to help them scale.
Hmm. Wow, that's good. And we want to do that because so many people want to go from side hustle to main hustle or side hustle to main thing, as it might be. But was there a side hustle habit that you had to break to become a full time operator in land sales?
So we started out as land being our side hustle. So we both
Okay.
had
Yeah.
9 to 5 jobs, and we were doing this over the weekend and over like after work. And we were just fortunate that we did not get distracted for whatever reason. We did not get distracted. And the shiny object syndrome is
Yep.
is a big thing.
Totally.
I have a podcast. I talk to founders pretty much every day. And I see that like pretty much every founder is like distracted. No one wants to do just one business. Everyone
Yep.
wants like three or four or five
Yes.
lines of businesses that they want to run. And that's because as entrepreneurs, you're always, you get bored easily and you want
Hmm.
challenges and you're like, oh, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to
Yep.
start that business. So yeah, so we were lucky that we did not get distracted and we stayed focused on land.
You talk about goodwill, which we're going to get into
Yeah.
those other principles. And it's not about just the land, it's actually how you sell it. Can you talk about how you learned the mentality and what you actually had to bring to the table as the seller or the buyer of the property?
Right. So, yeah, interesting question. So, when we first started, we saw our land buyers as one-time transaction. We were
Oh,
like, oh,
okay.
John wants to buy this 5 acre property in Nevada.
Mhm.
We sell it to him, end of transaction, and thank you, John. Right. And
Mhm.
that's it. So, that's how we were running our business when we first started. And that was a big mistake because we were not optimizing for LTV, lifetime value of a customer,
Yeah,
right? Which
right.
is
Right.
extremely critical. So, in any business, if you want to make more money, you can either continue to spend more money on ads, marketing, and acquire new customers, or you could make your existing customers more valuable, right?
Mm.
Have them like repurchase stuff and
Yeah.
and get into a relationship with them. So for the first half of our journey, we spent most of our time focused on just spending more money on Facebook marketing, land marketing,
Mm.
and getting more
Mhm.
customers and treating them as transactions. And the reason that's a problem is because CAC, cost to acquire a customer, keeps on going up every year, right? So it's
Mhm.
essentially comes down to a ratio between LTV, lifetime value, versus CAC, cost to acquire a customer, right? The bigger the
Yeah.
ratio, the more scalable the company. So for example,
Mm.
if you put $1 cost to acquire a customer and you make $100 in gross profits, and assuming they just say buy one property. So that's 100 to 1 is the ratio. That means you're putting in $1 and you're getting $100 worth of gross profit. That means you have a ton of money that you can redeploy back in the business, and that helps you scale, right? The
Mhm.
problem is, as we go from 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, the CAC, cost to acquire a customer, keeps on going up. So it's no longer 1 to 100. Now it's down to 1 to 20,
Oh,
meaning I put in $1 and I get only 20 out, which is a massive reduction, right?
Yep.
Because before you could run a Facebook ad and get a customer for get a lead for say $20. Now you do
Mhm.
the same thing and you're spending 100,
Yeah.
120, right? Because the cost keeps on going up. So that's the problem. That's the reason why you don't want to just focus on CAC. You want to focus on LTV. But you might think the story ends there. It doesn't. It gets deeper. So
Okay.
LTV, what does that actually mean? So lifetime value, a lot of people, I talk to founders and they misinterpret what value actually means. So for example, if we buy a product for, say we for us to acquire that product was $9,000 and we sell it for $10,000, our value for that customer, the customer who bought it, or gross profit, people think it's 10,000, but it's actually 1,000. That's 10,000 minus how much we bought the property for, or the product for.
Okay.
So the gross profit is only 1K, right? So that's the critical thing. So our CAC keeps on going up, cost to acquire customer keeps on going up, and our gross profit keeps on shrinking because of competition and more people entering the market. So that's the reason why the only thing left in that variable in this equation of CAC and LTV is L, which is lifetime value. So if you're not focused on lifetime value, providing a good experience for your customers, maintaining a relationship with them, and making sure they come back and buy more stuff from
Mhm.
you, you are not really building a scalable business that will last for generations, right?
Right.
So that was a critical principle that we had to learn over the years, and that changed everything. Now, how do you increase the LTGP or LTV of a customer? You provide goodwill. You have goodwill in the marketplace and you make more offers, right? So that's like
Uh,
another principle I talk about. The more money you make, the more money
yeah.
you want to make in a business is equal to the amount of goodwill you have in the marketplace multiplied by the number of offers you make to your customers.
So, can you break down this equation? I suppose it's a core principle of yours that money
Yeah.
equals goodwill times the number of offers. Can you break down why making more offers actually builds more trust with a customer rather than less?
Yes, very good question. So, say I'm going to explain with an example, so
Mhm.
we keep things everyone can
Yeah.
understand. So, I like to use the cafe example, right? So, say Michael, you and I in a small town, we
Yeah.
start our own cafes, Michael's Cafe and Abhi's Cafe, right? If customers comes to you and they ask for like a small coffee or a small cappuccino, and you have a nice conversation with them, and you say, well, you should try pastries, you should you upgrade to large, you get a discount, you should try
Mhm.
the foam art thing we put on
Yes.
top of your coffee, right? So you're having this nice conversation and you're telling them about your other offerings, and you're making them like soft offers, say like 4, 5, 6 offers as part of that 5-minute conversation, right? So that's how you're running your coffee shop. They come to my coffee shop, they say, oh, I would like to have a small cappuccino, and I was like, all right, here you go, thanks for coming in, right? So I'm treating my customers as a transaction one time and making only one offer.
Mhm.
You on the other hand are making 5, 6, 7 offers, right? So you can imagine if 100 people come to your cafe and 100 people come to my cafe, at the end of the year, your cafe's revenue might be at 600K and mine might be at 100 because I'm not making those extra offers, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
number of offers is very critical. I mean, and you might think it's like, oh, brand new concept. Fortune 500 companies have been using this forever. Like I can
Mm.
give you like unlimited examples. Let's talk
Yeah.
about car rentals, right? You
Yeah.
go there and you say, oh yeah, I rented this sedan. Sir, would you like to upgrade to an SUV? It's supposed to snow later. Would you like a GPS device with it? Would you like
Mm.
a ski rack? Would you like a baby seat for your kid? Would you like to prepay for gas? Would you like premium insurance? Right? So they make you like
Mhm.
7, 8, 9, 10 offers every
Yeah.
time you go to a car rental counter, right? Go on an airplane, right? Would you like to upgrade like extra legroom? Would you like this food packet thing, right? Fruit and nut packet. Would you like this? Would you like that? Would you like
Uh-huh.
a premium onboarding or boarding of the plane, right? There's so many offers will be made to you, right? So every successful company knows this, and they make ton of offers, because the more offers they make, the more people will take it, and they increase their revenue. And you can imagine, if you do over volume, like how many people are going to Starbucks every day, right? How many people are flying every day? How many people are renting cars every day? Those extra upsell offers, right? They add up very fast, right? We're talking millions and millions of dollars in extra revenue for these companies every
Hmm.
single day. So number of offers is extremely important, but you must have goodwill in the marketplace, because the more goodwill you have in the marketplace, the more likely these offers will get
Uh,
accepted.
hmm.
Because if people don't trust you, right? If it's a brand new cafe, no one
Yeah.
knows Abi in the small town. I just arrived there, right? People
Yeah.
will be hesitant when we'll be like, "Oh, would you like a croissant with it?" And they'll be like, "No, you just opened the shop. Just give me my coffee and I'll be on my way."
Yeah.
Right? So goodwill times number of offers is equal to a lot more revenue.
That is a great way to look at it. And just the idea that you're really providing, it's not so much of taking money out of your clients or customers' pocket. It's actually about building the relationship, but also people don't always know how to express the needs they have when
Yes.
they're looking. And now I wanted to ask then about goodwill and trust. You often use an example of your accountant to explain the
Yes.
difference between trusting someone and having goodwill towards them. What is trust alone not enough to scale a business?
Right. So yeah, the accountant example, that's my from my book that I try to use everywhere, because it's like so powerful.
Yes.
So my accountant has been doing taxes. I hope he doesn't listen to this.
Yeah.
Or maybe he does, and then he gets his act together, right? So my accountant has been doing land-based taxes for like 20 plus years, right? Or even
Okay.
longer.
Yeah.
So I trust him that he will get my taxes done 100% accurately. But
Yeah.
he doesn't have any goodwill towards me, because every time I reach out to him, he will either not respond or respond after a week or 2 weeks if I hear back. And then I have to constantly follow up. And I'll call him, it will go to voicemail. No one picks
Yeah.
up the phone, right? And I'll email him, crickets. And then I constantly, like multiple channels, I have to like reach out, and then I get a response. So if someone comes to me and they say, "Oh, yeah, I'm also in the land space. Can you recommend an accountant?" I'm not going to
Hmm.
be recommending my accountant, because
Right.
there's this zero goodwill, even though the trust is at 10 out of 10, because I know
Yeah.
when he gets to my taxes, they'll be done 100% correctly, because he's been doing it for so long. So
Right.
trust is not equal to goodwill. Trust is a component of goodwill, but
Mm.
goodwill, the way I define it, is
Yeah.
the positive feeling you have towards a brand or a person, right?
Mm.
So if you don't
Yeah.
have that positive feeling, you're not going to recommend other customers. Just to give you an example of how powerful referrals are and word of mouth is,
Uh-huh.
I had a founder on my show, and his net worth is like more than $100 million, and
Wow.
his company generates 50 million plus revenue every year, and he's been in business for like 30 plus years. And I asked him, how do you acquire customers? Right? Like, what, let's draw
Mm.
a pie
Hmm.
chart. Tell me the pieces of the pie chart. How are you acquiring customers? How many are coming from ads? How many are coming from social media? How many are coming from podcasts? How many are coming from your book? How
Mm.
many coming from word of mouth? And he's like, Abi, we don't need a pie chart, because all my customers come from one source. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. You're running a
No.
$50 million company. How can you only have one source for customer acquisition? That makes zero sense. Like, what am I missing? And it's like the reason, and I was like, what is that source? And he's like, word of mouth.
Wow.
And that's it. Everyone is coming through word of mouth. And it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, and that's the reason why I don't have to spend a single dollar in ads. And I was like, how are you doing it? What's the secret? I want to know, because
Yeah.
my company, in my company, my referral rate is like 15%, which is ridiculous, because yours is 100%. How are you doing it? And he says, so every time a customer comes in, I think of them first, and I try to provide as much value upfront as possible. Ridiculous amount of value. So if they're paying me $1,000, I think of it as, how can I provide 10x that value? So if they pay
Huh.
1,000, I want to provide them $10,000 worth of value. And if you start looking through this lens, every
Mm-hmm.
customer that comes in the door,
Yeah.
in 5 years, you won't need any marketing dollars because your existing customers will just keep on referring to other people, and that
Wow.
word of mouth flywheel will kick off. And that
Wow.
was his secret of like getting there. Because if you let's go back to that formula, right? CAC,
Mm-hmm.
cost to acquire a customer, and
Yeah.
LTV, lifetime value or lifetime gross profit, right? So that's a ratio. And you want the LTV to be as high as possible and CAC to be as low as possible to run a
Mm-hmm.
scalable company, right? So
Yeah.
what's his CAC? Cost to acquire a customer? $0,
Yeah.
right? And what's his LTGP? Doesn't matter because it's
Yeah, right.
infinite, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't spend any money and he just keeps on collecting checks, right?
Yeah.
So that's a perfect business. And how do we get there? By taking care of our customers and not treating them like transactions, by building
Mm-hmm.
relationships with them. Like just tactical advice on how we're doing it for audience.
Right.
Like
Yes.
we reach out, like, so a lot of our land we sell on owner financing. Like people say it's
Okay.
$20,000. They will say, "Oh, I'll give you 2,000 down and 500 per month for the next couple of years," as
Mm.
opposed to paying K upfront. It's almost like buying a car. People don't like paying upfront. People like paying
Yes. Right.
on terms. So we would before we would just talk to them when they were signing the contract, and we will talk to them when it's time to record the deed and they have paid off, right? That was a
Mm-hmm.
mistake because that's not building a relationship. Now we do monthly check-ins. Every month we call them and ask them how are things going. Every time there's like a failed payment or a delayed payment, we'll call them. And we're not going to be like, make this payment. We'll be like, how are things going? We'll just start with that and they'll just bring it up themselves. Oh, by the way, yeah, I'm running late this month. So we are running a human first organization now
Mm-hmm.
where we take care of our customers, and in return, customers reward us. They
Yeah.
come back to buy more, they refer, they use word of mouth. And the thing with word of mouth is it's not instant. It takes time, right? And that's the reason why we're at 15% and not at like 100%, like my friend
Mm-hmm.
who came
Yeah.
on the show.
Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com. Being able to care for people as well as the business, just the payoff is in untangible, really, amounts of what actually comes from being a great human to another human and making that
Yeah.
connection. Now,
Yeah.
you've talked about the 4 types of offers, and you advocate for 4 specific offers of attraction, upsell, downsell, and continuity. Why do most businesses fail by only using one of these types?
Right. So going back to the coffee shop example, right?
Yeah.
If businesses, like all big businesses, use all 4 types of offers because they have it figured out. It's
Mm.
a well-known documented thing that pretty much every successful companies know. So let's look at the coffee shop example and also the car rental
Yeah.
example. So coffee shop attraction offer. Some it's We want to attract people who otherwise wouldn't come in. Like, so let's talk
Mhm.
about a very specific example. Say we know 12 to 2 p.m. is like a slow period, right? People don't come into the coffee
Yep,
shop because they're
that's
out
right.
for lunch or whatever, right? So we put a sign out saying, well, if you come in between 12 and 2, everything in the coffee shop is 20% off, right? Now you're attracting people who otherwise wouldn't come in because they'll be like, wait,
Mhm.
what? Everything is 20% off. I really wanted to buy that mug, waterproof mug thing
Yes.
that they sell. And I thought it was a little bit too expensive. Now I'm going to go between 12 and 2 and buy that, right? Kind of thing. So that's the first type, attraction offer. Second is upsell. We discussed this, right? Someone comes in
Mhm.
for coffee, they ask for small. We try to upsell them large, or we try to upsell them into buying a pastry, cookie, croissant, or whatever, right? And we talk about why, it's like special, it's in demand and all that stuff. So that would be an upsell offer. Downsell offer is if you make an expensive upsell, like say, oh, these coffee beans just came from Costa Rica. They're special. People love them. Very low in supply. Would you
Mhm.
like a 5-pound bag for $99? And someone is like, that's too much. They'll be like, well, we also have a 1-pound bag for $20, right? So that we made a downsell offer.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
reason you make a downsell offer is because if they say no to upsell, you made $0. But if you made a downsell offer and they accept it, you made 20, right?
Yes.
So
Right.
that's downsell offer. And the fourth type is continuity offer, which is like membership, subscriptions. They buy stuff from you, they
Mhm.
come back and they're like, well, would you like to be clearly you came back 3 times. Would you like to be part of our coffee club? Because then you get a coupon in the mail, you get like
Mhm.
accrue points, which you can
That's right.
redeem, you get access to after hour events and stuff, right? So and that also builds MRR, monthly recurring revenue, right? So
Mhm.
that's why businesses love it. So how does this apply to car rental, right? So you see, you say you're flying to Vegas and you'll see ads like, oh, rent a car from Budget for like $9 a day.
Yeah.
And Michael, you're thinking, I'm there for 5 days. So $9.99 per day, that's like $50. That's so cheap. I'm gonna pick Budget over Avis, right? So
Uh-huh.
you pick Budget, you go to the counter. Michael, you're a family of four. You really want to be cramped in this small car? Don't you want to upgrade to an SUV or like a premium vehicle? Right? So they do the upsells.
Mhm.
Don't you want to prepay for gas? You really want to, like fumble at the gas station while your
Uh-huh.
flight is about to leave, right? So stuff like that. So the attraction offer, they start with a very low offer, right? So that's an example of attraction.
Yeah.
Upsell, they upsell all these things. Downsell, they'll be like, oh, would you like liability insurance for $2 million? And you're like, well, I don't really think we need $2 million worth of liability insurance. And they're like, how about for half a million? Because the car is worth 100K and blah
Yeah.
blah blah, right? So downsell to a lower value insurance. And then continuity. You come back, you have a great experience, you get an email. Would you like to join our budget car rental club? Next time you come to Las Vegas, you don't even have to stop at the counter. You go directly to the car, to the parking
Yeah.
lot, right? So every successful company makes all four offer types. And as a small business owners are notorious for not making all four types, right? And if you're not, you're
Mhm.
losing money on the table.
Yeah. Right. Well, powerful and great tips too for people that have small businesses and trying to grow their income streams from their customers. Now, I want to ask you about speed beats persuasion. This is maybe one of your most provocative ideas. Why is responding to a lead in 60 seconds more important than having that perfect sales script?
Right. Um, so I learned this by accident. So I
Okay.
had a person on we had a lead. So, people go on land.com, landwatch.com, they click on request for more information on a listing. So
Mhm.
someone requested for more information and we responded to them the next day. It was like late in the day, like around 5:30, right? A cutoff time, five thirty
Mhm.
six p.m. We responded next day at 10 when we came in, 10:30 a.m. And the person's, oh yeah, I already bought it. I was like, you already bought the property? You just sent the message like literally last night. He's like, yeah, one of the other land companies reached out and I already bought it. I was like, So all these sales training that we went through of objection handling, right? People saying,
Yeah.
oh, how do you handle an objection when people say, oh, I don't have the money, or I need to talk to my wife, or I need to think about it, right? Those kind of objections. We were trained on this. We had like pre-canned answers that we prepared in our scripts,
Mm.
perfectly lined up. And we didn't even get a chance to use all of that because we were late to the party, right? So that's when we realized that speed is more important than being persuasive on the
Yeah.
phone, because
Right.
it doesn't matter how good of a persuasive personality you are, or skill set you have. If
Mhm.
you're not reaching out to the leads when they have facing the biggest pain, right, you're going to lose that customers. So that's
Yeah.
when it turned into a principle, which was like, all right, everyone in our sales team needs to follow it. Speed to lead is the
Yes.
most important metric when it comes to sales.
Yes, absolutely. And being able to answer those questions. And it may not always be a spontaneous decision to buy a piece of land, but I'm pretty sure if people are reaching out, they're ready to go. And
Yeah.
so if they knock on a door and Michael's 5 a.m. cafe is closed, but they see Abby's just down the
Exactly.
street, man. Oh man, I need that cup of coffee. And I know what that's like because when you love to drink coffee and you go to a city that is not a coffee city,
Yeah,
you're like, okay, well, I guess during a storm, any safe harbor will do. So let's just get this deal
exactly.
done. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah. Now we've been talking about the coffee shops and, perhaps there's a coffee shop that's open 15 hours a day. There's one that's open 5. How do you structure your team then so that availability becomes your competitive advantage?
Right. So availability yeah, this was also a lesson that we learned.
Mm.
And I don't know how many sales we lost because of this. It makes me upset at just thinking about it.
Yeah.
So we have like a setter closer model. So setter
Mm.
is someone who sets the appointment, and then the
Okay.
closer is the one who actually does the closing.
Right.
So we used to have limited hours for closer because closers are expensive. They have a lot of things on their plate because
Yeah.
they're in high demand, right? Which makes sense. So we used to have like, oh, we're gonna have like 1 to 4 p.m. open, and if someone wants to book in the calendar, they can pick a time between 1 and 4 p.m. But a lot of our customers, when we talk to them, they were complaining. They're like, well, like Eric, for example, Erica is the closer in our company. It's like, well, Erica is not available half the time. Her calendar, I can't find any spots and this and that. And at first we ignored it. We're like, yeah, we're busy. So what are you going to do? Right. But then we start losing sales because people will like just go to a different company who is more available. And that's when
Hmm.
we realized that availability is actually a competitive advantage because if we can open up Erica's schedule for pretty much all day, then we can start the relationship with the customer much
Yeah.
sooner, right? Just like you gave the perfect coffee shop example, right? If
Hmm.
you want coffee right now and your favorite coffee shop is closed, you're not going to wait 2 hours for them to open. You're just going to
That's
find
right.
the next one, right?
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with land, right? Unless you have like this unique special snowflake of a land piece which happens rarely, but most of the time it acts as a commodity, and you have to be the most available. Another tip for being most available is instead of having 30-minute slots, change it to 15-minute slots, so
Hmm.
that doubles your availability on the calendar. So
Right.
keep it open as wide as possible on your calendar and as short of an increment as possible. So 15-minute slots open
Hmm.
from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. kind of thing. That's what we target.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to be able to be out there ready and waiting for that buyer to come along. Now,
Yeah.
one of the things we talk about here on 5am podcast is the power of the word no, as well as the power of the word yes. When a customer says no to a specific piece of land, you say that isn't a no to the relationship. How do you turn this apparent rejection into a future asset?
Right. So before, once again, going back to the like when we used to treat people like transactions
Yeah,
versus now we treat people like actually start of a relationship, human
yeah.
first company, we realized if someone says no for whatever reason, right? So say I'll give you a very specific example. So someone says, "Oh, I want to put tiny home on this parcel in Florida." Right? And we know because we did our due diligence that tiny homes are not allowed in this county, right? We'll have to say, well, sorry, you cannot put a tiny home on this property. And that's their primary objective. So they'll
Hmm.
say, like, all right, I don't want to buy it then, right? So that's a no. They're
Yeah.
rejecting our land. Now, in this situation, we can do two things. One, we'll be like, all right, well, thanks for calling us, and then send them their way. The other thing we can do is we can actually help them. We'll be like,
Mm.
well, Sarah, I'm sorry this land didn't work out for you, but I can tell you by experience that none of the land in this county will work for you. But I can give you a list of 4 counties where we know for sure that you can build a tiny home with
Mhm.
experience. Even though
Yeah.
we don't have properties in those counties right now because we're sold out, we can point you in the right direction. You can talk to this agent or you can go to this website and search for land there, right? Now, even though we didn't make a sale, we provided value to our
Mhm.
customer and we
Yeah.
started a relationship, right? We're like, well, in the future, if you have any questions, even if you, because we also do like free 15-minute calls with potential customers, and it's like you don't have to book a call just to buy from us. It can be anything related to land, and we'll try to help you out because we're
Hmm.
building goodwill in the marketplace,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So because we starting these relationships, and the whole referral word of mouth thing started kicking in, because some people will go back and say, oh yeah, I actually didn't find land in those counties. I you know what, my plans changed. Now I want to build use a mobile home instead of tiny
Hmm.
home,
Hmm.
and I'm going to buy from you. So a lot of times the people will come back, or they will refer out to their friends and family. They say, well, this is a very helpful company. If you want to buy land, go to them, right?
Yes.
So just because they said no doesn't mean we need to end the transaction. We can turn it into a relationship that blooms and continues to pay over time.
That's right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking with Abby Asija, and I've got to tell you, we have a comment section, and we love to read the comments and give them little thumbs up and hearts. So, if you're listening in and you need to let us know about your experience or what you'd like to be doing, and maybe one of those comments is Michael, is how can I get in touch with Abby? Abby, can you share your your contact information so that our
Yeah.
listeners know how to get the deals from you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Abi Asija. I also have a book called The Land Business that you can find on Amazon.com, free on Kindle Unlimited. And if I also provide mentorship for people who are trying to
Hmm.
switch from 9 to 5 to buying and selling vacant land. And for that, the website is honestwealthbuilders.com.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And that's what we want in our life, is to deal with honest people, which is sometimes harder than it sounds. But now you argue that doing more deals actually makes you safer. How does that high volume remove that element of luck from your business outcomes?
Yeah, so if you are doing 5 deals per year versus
Mhm.
500, right? So we're looking at two
Mhm.
extremes.
Yeah.
In those 5 deals, if you lose money on one of them, right, that's potentially a 20% loss that you're taking, right?
Hmm.
Whereas on those 500, I could lose money on 10 of those deals, 20 of those deals, and it's still not going to impact my the curve of my revenue growth that's
Mhm.
happening, right?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it's just the law of large numbers, right? Because it kind of like smooths out your revenue curve. I might lose couple of deals, lose money on couple of deals every month, but it is not going to impact the total revenue that I generate. So
Right.
just doing a lot more volume helps with that. It smooths out your revenue curve, and it also gives you more experiences, right? And the more experiences you get, the more efficient and more knowledgeable
Mhm.
your processes and your employees get as well, right?
Right.
So volume is always a good thing because it forces efficiency, it forces more learning opportunities. And
Mhm.
that's the reason why we picked this model over doing, like few large deals per year, because they you can still make money with few large deals. Like plenty of examples in the land community where people will just do like one large or two large subdivision plays. Well, they'll
Mhm.
buy this 100-acre property and they'll split it into like 5-acre lots and then sell them individually. And they'll make, 7-figure revenue just like we do, but
Yeah.
they'll have to do, a lot less work in terms of the actual selling, but then they have to do a lot more work in actually creating value in the subdivision, right? Because
Right.
hiring surveyors, working with the county
Mhm.
and all that. So
Yep.
it's a lot of work either way. It's just that we chose volume over less volume because we felt safer in the
Yeah.
smoother revenue curve.
Right. And now, of course, a lot of this, it comes down to money and capital, financing. And that could maybe be the biggest bottleneck, really, for most land investors. Now, we know, Abby, that the financing and capital can be a big bottleneck for most land investors. How do you advise those clients coming to you looking for land to maybe make some creative deals or get the financing and make a deal happen when they didn't think it was possible?
Right. So in general, there are two ways you can use capital to buy more land, right? Because at certain point, you're going to run out of capital, no matter how much money you're starting with, right?
Right.
You could be starting with 100K or 1 million. You buy enough properties, you're going to run out of money, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
either you can go out to banks, go out to friends and family and acquire external capital or look for other investors, funding partners.
Yeah.
But there's a secret way that I recently learned, like in the last couple of years, is to use your customers to fund future acquisitions. So how do you do
Okay.
that, right? So say we buy a property for $10,000 and we're selling it for 25, right? Now the
Yeah.
customer, we bought it for 10K. The customer says, well, I don't have 25K right now, but I can give you $2,500 down and then 500 per month, right? The problem with this model is because you deployed $10,000 to buy land, you only got 2,500 in the first when you sold the property. Let's say
Yeah.
it takes 90 days to sell the property. So in the first 90 days, you only made 2,500, which means that you're going to run out of capital much faster if you use this model, right? Because you keep on deploying more money, but then the return of that money is much slower over like maybe 18 months, right? So, what if you can incentivize your customers to pay back sooner? What if you give them options and say, well, John, if you put more down payment or if you pay the 3-year loan within 6 months, I can give you 10% off or I can give you like some incentive that
Mhm.
motivates them to pay it off sooner, right? And if you can do that, you can recover your capital costs much sooner. And
Mhm.
then you don't need to go out to the bank. You can redeploy the capital faster and
Yeah.
keep churning this machine, right?
Right.
So we went from, oh, we're just going to use our savings and redeploy the capital slowly
Mhm.
to how do we make our customers pay back that money much faster by using win money back campaigns. We'll be like, well, you can win your
Yeah.
money
Okay.
back. Like we'll give you like cash back. Like you know how like Chase gives you cash back when you use their credit
That's
card?
right.
Same
Yep.
thing. If you pay it back within 3 months, we'll give you like 5%, 10% cash back. So you're winning your money back kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that helped us recover our capital much sooner and then
Mm.
redeploy it back. So that's the play we have been doing more and
Hmm.
more. And that prevents us from going out and trying to acquire expensive capital.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because expensive money just makes profits less and just things more expensive in general. Now, I want in 2026, I think it's easier than ever to get rich. Now, talk about a faith statement. Not everybody would agree with me, but I think that's true. But I think it's also easier than ever to get distracted.
Yeah.
Why have you chosen to turn off all news and social media to focus solely on your one lane?
Yeah. I would say it's not easy to get rich. I would say that's easy. You have all the knowledge readily
Uh,
available to get
okay.
rich.
Okay,
Right? In
good.
2020, because you don't have any more knowledge gaps. You literally
Mm,
ask
mhm.
ChatGPT for a business plan and it
It's
will
true.
give you an excruciating detail
Oh,
on what to
yes.
do next. Right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it has never been easier to, as you said, to get rich or get the knowledge to get rich. But
Mhm.
it's also never been easier to get distracted. You turn on the
Mm,
news, you
mhm.
go to YouTube, you literally have like thumbnails screaming for you to click on
Oh,
them.
yes.
Right?
Yes. Watch me. Watch
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Shorts. Literally, like I go when I'm like traveling, I pretty much everyone is like
Oh,
doing those shorts thing these days. Oh my God. Like they're like next, 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 next. Like
yes.
it's so addictive, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's so easy to get distracted in 2026 and so much easier to also get rich through all the knowledge that you have readily available.
Mm,
And
mhm.
and once I realized that I was like, okay, I need to, because you only have 24 hours. You have limited brain cycles
Yep.
that you can
That's right.
deploy, right? Like you compare yourself to Elon Musk or whoever you look up to, right? They have the same 24 hours you have, right? So
Yes.
how are they so far ahead in terms of financial goals than you are? Because it's just that they're deploying their time in a much more focused way, rather much
Yeah.
more focused, at least in the business context, and the politics aside.
Yep.
So that's the reason why I made a decision, especially this happened during COVID when it was like even more
Yes.
crazy and nerve wracking to, to watch the news. And that's where the habit got started. And then I've continued ever since. So I've like, don't watch any news, try to limit social media.
Mm-hmm.
These days, the only way I get trapped is like when in the morning, I will post my own content on pretty much every social media.
Okay.
And every now and then I'll catch a thumbnail with like, oh, I need to click on this. So that's my only loophole right now that I'm
Oh,
trying to
yes.
close.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm like, yeah, no TV. I don't watch TV. I don't watch news. I don't read news.
Mm-hmm.
Social media is extremely limited and it just helps me. In fact, writing a book takes a long time. Even with AI assist, it
Yeah.
takes a large amount of time to come up with ideas and
Mhm.
how to structure them. So you can't write a book like a serious, deep thought book if you are constantly, your brain is like constantly thinking about, oh, what's
Yeah.
Trump gonna do? Oh, what's this gonna do? What will this person do? Right? If you constantly, your brain cycles are getting
Mhm.
deployed and
Yes.
distracted in news or your favorite TV show, what's gonna happen next on Game of Thrones, right?
Totally.
It's very hard to focus on what you're trying to achieve, which is like, oh, I'm trying to finish this book, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I completely stopped it.
Yeah, that's so smart. That's so smart. And there's so many shiny objects, and it's almost like our attention is incredibly valuable to ourselves, but also to other people. And I know we certainly like people looking at the 5 a.m. podcast social media, but we're trying to uplift people and encourage them to reach out and to switch from a side hustle and employee mindset to getting into building a world within a world for the next generation to come. What specific deal number or moment did this business stop feeling like it was a series of gambles and start feeling like a predictable machine?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I feel like after we hit close to 250 sales, we were like, okay, now we feel confident that if we can do 250 sales, we can do
Mhm.
500. And if we can do
Yeah.
500, we can do 1,000. And if we can do 1,000, we can do 2,000, right?
Mhm.
So after enough deals, you get more confident and it's, I mean, it was not like a light bulb thing that it just flips, but it was more of a gradual thing where we like, all right, we have done so many deals at this point, we kind of know how to run
Mhm.
this business and how to scale it, or at least not
Yeah.
how to scale it, but how to be able to provide for our family by buying and selling vacant land. So
Yeah.
I would say around that number.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Abby, thank you for being so authentic and transparent in our conversation. It's rare, and it's rare to find somebody who's done so many deals and is still willing to share the tuition they've paid along the way. So thank you so much for joining me today for the 5 a.m. podcast.
Thank you, Michael. Very well researched. I really appreciated the questions.
Oh, thank you. It was such a great conversation. I know we could go on and on, but we've both got other things we got to do today. So,
Yeah.
a sincere thanks to you and for our listeners, friends. If you're tired of that fragile growth, the paycheck to paycheck and month to month, and if you want to start building a durable, legacy, optional, you know what I'm saying? Predictable business. You need to grab Abby's book. It's called The Land Business. And truly, I think it is actually a masterclass in the principles of scale and goodwill. You can find the book on Amazon, and we'll have a link in the show notes to the book. So don't just listen to this episode, share it, of course, but apply the 60-second rule to your business idea and life today. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the 5 a.m. podcast. Please seize your days, enjoy those sunrises and sunsets, maybe from a new piece of land, and all the beautiful adventures in between. I'm Michael Clausen, and I'll see you on the next 5 a.m. podcast. Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com.